Thank you for coming out, especially in the bad weather. I just want to introduce Rav Pessin, all the way from Eretz Yisrael. I first found out about Rav Pessin in an article in Mishpacha. How long ago was it? 2 years ago? About somewhere around that. And so many Gedolei Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael, America too. But if a person wants to meet these Gedolim, have experiences with Gedolim, how do you go about doing it? So Rav Pessin is the person to go to. He has, I don't know how he does it, but he has Siyata Dishmaya, that he has connections with many Gedolei Yisrael, and he's taken many, many people, and people who go. I went this past summer. He took me to Rav Chaim Kanievsky and Rav Nissim Karlitz, and then we got brachas for them and spoke with them a little bit in learning, asked some shilas, and I got a lot of chizuk out of it. My family got a lot of chizuk out of it, and so do many others. He also has a website called Torah 24/7. He has short video clips, now over 7,000 video clips.
7,200.
So he's very, very prolific. They're very geschmack. I encourage everybody to go and check it out. They're very interesting. They're very clear, very geschmack. He's also a very prolific writer. He has quite a number of sfarim, which are very interesting. I've been going through them and learning a lot, and we've invited him to come and speak to us, and hopefully everybody enjoys. Without further ado.
Shekayach. Good evening, Highland Park, New Jersey. The tremendous chus for me to be here this evening, to be learning together an interesting sugya that we're going to be dealing with. Bershus Arav Maradeas Rashlite Rabbonim Chashuvim, dear friends. Last Pasha V'Eschanan, a week ago, we read Naseres Adibros. Kaved es avicha ve'es yemecha. Honor, respect your father and your mother. But that was last week, and we're here today. So what is the connection to yesterday's Pasha? Leman yirbu yemeicha v'imei v'nechem. We read just yesterday. The Torah promises longevity, and that is the same reward that the Torah promises for Kibbud Avim. So here's a direct connection, and therefore this allows us to Emet Hashem learn all about the sugya of Kibbud Av Ve'em. We're going to be dealing with various cases, some of them wild cases, that come up in front of Gedolei Yisrael, and we're going to try and figure out what is the proper halachic approach to resolve these issues. We all have Kibbud Av Ve'em shilas, either towards our parents or for our kids towards us. But the Torah promises longevity for this mitzvah, and we don't find this by other mitzvahs. Not too many mitzvahs. If you shake dulav, you're going to get longevity. The Torah doesn't say that. So what is so special about Kibbud Av Ve'em? That the Torah says, if you do this, I'm going to give you a long life. Some explain. The wife says to the husband. Sometimes it's the husband who says to the wife, this is our best years together. And you're destroying those years. You're constantly going to your parents, taking care of them, answering their phones, doing all kinds of stuff with them. What's going to be with us? These are our best years together. So the Torah says, don't worry. You take care of your parents. And I'm going to give you extra years. Don't worry. You're going to have time to spend with your spouse. Beautiful time. Great years. And you'll be healthy. And long life. And you'll be able to spend the time. But make sure that you spend the time with your parents and take care of them. A shayla came to the Chazon Ish. A guy came to him once from Yerushalayim to travel to Bnei Brak. Then, it wasn't like today. Today you go into the car, 60 minutes later you're in Bnei Brak. But then you took a train, it was a big deal. And this guy came to the Chazon Ish and asked, Rebbe, I want to ask you a question. My mother is very sick. They're saying she's going to die. We're talking imminently. She's in the hospital in Yerushalayim. And I have siblings in America. And what's going to happen if she dies in Yerushalayim in the hospital? We can't wait. You don't leave a dead person overnight in Yerushalayim because of the tremendous sanctity of Yerushalayim. And therefore, my shayla to you is, my sisters, my brothers won't be able to make it to the Levaya. So should I move my mother from the hospital in Yerushalayim to the hospital in Tel Aviv? Because when she dies over there, we'll be able to allow a few hours for my brothers and sisters from the States to come. Good shayla. The Chazon Ish said, I'm very surprised. If you came all the way to Bnei Brak to me, why don't you ask me to daven for your mother? What's her name? What's her mother's name? The guy was so embarrassed, didn't even think about that. He went back to Yerushalayim. When he came back to Yerushalayim, again, this was a matter of a few hours in those days to go from Bnei Brak to Yerushalayim. They told him his mother was already released from the hospital. Chazonish's bracha. He was already making funeral arrangements. She was preparing dinner. If we sacrifice for our parents, two things will happen. They will daven for us. Not only will they daven for us here, when they go upstairs, they will make a lot of noise in Shamayim and they will daven for us. And with that, we're going to get a long life. But more than that, if we sacrifice for our parents, our kids will do the same to us. Because Kibbud Avayim never starts from the kids. Kibbud Avayim has to start from the top, going down to the bottom. They see how we behave, and Yimitz Hashem, they will do the same to us. The mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim is so great that there's a mamish, a frightening medrash. Medrash Rabbah, Bereshis Rabbah, Parsha Ayin Vav Os Beis. The medrash says, Yaakov Avinu is about to meet Esav. Vayira Yaakov me'oid, vayetzer lo, he's terrified. Why is he so afraid? Yaakov Avinu testifies on himself. Im lovan galti, says Rashi, v'taryag mitzvos shomarti. That means Yaakov Avinu kept 613 mitzvahs, lichoya, on a certain level. He's about to meet a Rasha. There was no greater Rasha than Esav. Much more than that. Kodesh Baruch Hu gave him a promise. I will be with you. I will watch you. And yet, Yaakov Avinu is terrified. Why are you so afraid, Yaakov? Says the Medrash. Maybe he is coming to me, Yaakov Avinu says, maybe Esav is coming to meet me with the koyach of the mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim. After all, I was away from my father for 22 years. I wasn't able to fulfill this mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim. And Esav, Harasha, the Mistama even did it without Kavana, which are all different sugya, mitzvah tzrichos Kavana or not tzrichos Kavana, but this mitzvah is so powerful that Yaakov Avinu, keeping 613 mitzvahs, is afraid of one mitzvah that Esav has, Kibbud Avayim. So after this little Hagdama, we understand a little of the merits of this great mitzvah. We dive in to the first wild case, and we're going to try to figure out what should be the appropriate halachic response. All these maisim are true maisim. Ma'isa shehaya. A guy is hospitalized. He is in the intensive care unit. He can't put on tefillin. The only person that can put on the tefillin for him is his son. The nurse is not going to do it. Nobody can do it. Nobody's allowed to go in except for his son. The son wants to go back to yeshiva. The yeshiva is in a different city. The son asks, am I mechuyev to stay here and help my father put on tefillin every single day, or can I go back to the yeshiva? My Torah learning in the yeshiva is much better than here. Yes, chavrusa there, regular chavrusa, steigen over there. It's not like staying here in this city, and he has to go back to the yeshiva. But he has his father, who is connected to a lot of machines. He can't do it on his own. Can he? Should he stay here in the city and help his father? Or perhaps, can he? Should he go back to his yeshiva in a different town? This is a complex shayla. What do you do when you have a shayla like this? You come to the Beis Din of Highland Park, New Jersey, and you present the question. So that's what we're doing tonight. Rabbi Isai, what do you say? Should he stay in town and help his father? Lichora, there's four things here. Gemilus chasadim, big mitzvah. Kibbud Avayim. Anything else we can figure out?
Question about putting tefillin on if he's in a state. It's Roy. He has
Gufnaki.
in a hospital.
Gufnaki, Baruch Hashem, private room, and that's not the problem. He can put on the tefillin.
Is he conscious or unconscious?
You know, he's sort of in between. So we came in, and we asked him, do you want your son to go? He can't talk. So he just did motions like this. In other words, he should go. Should we listen to him? There's Gmilos Chasadim, there's Kibbud Avayim. What else do we have here? Mitzvah. What's that? Talmud Torah. Keneged Kulam. But I'm asking for those reasons to allow him to stay here in our town. The mitzvah she'eina yechoila le'asois al yedei acherim. Nobody else can do this mitzvah but him. What else do we have? Mitzvah overes. It's a passing mitzvah. Rabbi say, what do you say? Should he stay and help his father, or should he go? You know, Talmud Torah is a funny mitzvah. Talmud Torah, on one hand, is keneged kulam. Yet, it's a mitzvah which is rejected for all other mitzvahs, even mitzvahs derabanan. You have Kriyas Megillah, Purim. You stop your learning. Pirsum Nisa, you have to go. It's a mitzvah derabanan, yet Talmud Torah is rejected. But Talmud Torah has the weight corresponding to all other mitzvahs. We say it every morning in davening. Talmud Torah, keneged kulam.
But the difference is the quality is going to be better back in yeshiva. He's not going to done.
He can't learn here. He can't learn here the way he should. Maybe he will, but it's not going to be the same level. He needs his chavrusa. Oy chavrusa, oy misusa. The Gemara Tani says.
It might be better that he can't do kibbud avim to his father.
True.
In the hospital, at least he can do both.
But the Talmud Torah is going to suffer.
Yes, but he can't put the tefillin on his father from yeshiva.
True.
So that's out.
Right. Therefore, you want him to stay.
Also, it's going to make an impression on other people if he stays. Other people will see him putting tefillin on his father. Maybe there'll be a Hesiris by these other people, both those for the mitzvah of Kibbud as well as other mitzvahs.
You know, there's a funny statement in the Gemara. Maseches Megillah, the Gemara says, Gadol Talmud Torah yoiser mehatzalas nefashos. Talmud Torah is greater than saving a life. How can it be? If somebody is bleeding here to death, do I continue learning? I must attend and treat him. So how can it be? One has to daven that he shouldn't have these cases of hatzalas nefashos, of pikuach nefesh, because the reward for Talmud Torah is greater than even for saving a life. So you want him to stay and help his father. Everybody agrees? You have to stay. This Shaila went to Rebbe Yoshiv. Maran Rebbe Yoshiv Zecher Tzadik v'Kodosh Livrocha. We just had his yahrzeit a few weeks ago. Said Rebbe Yoshiv, he has to go. He has to go to the yeshiva. But why? We said there's Kibbud Avayim. There's Vilus Chasodim. There's Mitzvah Overes. It's Mitzvah that can't be done by others. Because there's a few concepts here. And when Imir Hashem, when we're going to be dealing with these shilas, along the way we'll figure out all kinds of halachic concepts regarding the Mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim. Kibbud Avayim applies only when you're in the same town. That's why I kept saying he has to go to a different town. If your father calls you up from a different town and says, come visit me right now, you don't have to. When you're in the same town, you're mechuyav, not when you're in a different town. There's another concept. Kibbud Av, Mishel Av. The father wants you to spend money on him, you don't have to. Kibbud Av is from the father's money, not from the son's. Now what's going to be here? This morning, the son helped his father and he put the tefillin on. Wonderful. Now, drive away to yeshiva. Tomorrow morning, what's going to happen to the father? Oynes. Oynes Rachmana Patre. Tomorrow, he can't. Mashal, a person is stranded on a deserted island. He can't put on tefillin. He doesn't have tefillin there. Will there be a claim on him in Shamayim after 120? Why didn't you put tefillin? I couldn't. I was stuck in a deserted island and there were no tefillin over there. If the son leaves now to learn Torah in the yeshiva after he helped his father this morning, tomorrow, the father is going to be in a category called Oynes. Oynes, Rachmana Patre.
Why is it Kibbud Avayim to put a tefillin on the father?
Oh, do you have a greater kibbud than that? Because no one else can do the mitzvah but him.
What if it wasn't his father?
Gemilos Chasadim, of the highest level.
Isn't Machelu, you have to give him Eichel and acknowledge him for Mrs. Kibbud Avayim?
That is the definition of kibbud avim. But do you have a greater mitzvah than assisting your father to fulfill this unbelievable mitzvah of putting a tefillin?
But why does it come under the gather of Kibbud Av?
When you help your father, it's a kibbud av. Here it's two for the price of one. It's kibbud av and gemilos chasadim. If it was somebody else, you would only have gemilos chasadim. So the achra of Rebbe Yoshev in this case was that the son should help the father in the morning and then drive away to the yeshiva. The father will be exempt tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem. The schus of the learning Torah of the son in the yeshiva will help the father heal faster, and he'll be able to put on his tefillin once again on his own. You know, funny thing, Maisa happened once with Reb Chaim Brisk. A guy came to him and he said, Rebbe, my father lives in a different city, and I know that the halacha is like we mentioned, Kibbud Av, Mishel Av, it's from the father's money. My father wants me to go visit him. But the ticket for the train is very expensive. Do I have to spend this money? I really don't want to. It's very expensive. Reb Chaim Yiplis told him, you're right. You don't have to spend the money. Kibbud Av is from the father. You don't have to buy the ticket for the train. Start walking. Your father wants to see you. You're not going to go. So yes, Kibbud Av is Mishel Av. You have to spend, the father has to spend his money. But you're not going to go see your father. Start walking. We move on to the next Shaila. Terrible Maisa. Terrible Maisa. A father is a doctor. In the morning, he works in a clinic in Kupat Cholim in Eretz Yisrael. In the afternoon, he has his private clinic. His daughter is a nurse and she works for him in the afternoon. Every afternoon, she notices that her father comes from his job in the morning and his pockets are very, very full. What does he have there? Syringes and all kinds of ointments and creams and medicine. And what doesn't he have there? Half of the Kupat Cholim is in his pockets. Now she knows that there's not going to be a siyata dishmaya when you're trying to heal people with stolen goods. It doesn't work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to assist this type of treatment. So she comes to the father and she says, Abba, you know what it says in the Torah? Loi signoiv. He says, what are you talking about? Do you know how much they made last year? $3 billion. This is peanuts. It's not considered stealing. He says to him, Abba, din puta ke din meya. He says to lo tachsom shor bedishoy. The pasuk says in the Torah, you can't put something on the animal's mouth when it's working. It isn't allowed to eat. Of course, it's nonsense because that's talking about the behema and that's talking about human beings. That's talking about bizman melacha and not bigmar melacha. He's done with his work. But the father obviously is in this level, in this situation where he can't listen to anything. He's not interested. The daughter now comes to us with two very, very harsh questions. First, does she have to resign? Second, does she have to report her father? Could you imagine calling the hospital and telling them, next time when my father leaves, check his pockets. Very uncomfortable. Does she have to resign? Does she have to report her father? Rabbi say, what do you say? Ever hear such a crazy shaila? Mamish terrible. What do you say? Not everybody together.
If it's a regular, if it's not her father, she would have to report?
Avade.
Why?
Why not? You see a person stealing. With what permission is he stealing potentially life-saving medicines? Who gave him permission? When you see a person stealing, you don't have the mitzvah of toichecha. You don't have the mitzvah.
But not to the husband.
Him, you have to toicha. And she tried. It didn't work. So now, how do you escalate that?
Does she know that
You have to stop the crime.
Does she know for 100% fact that he stole it? That she's witnessed it?
Absolutely. He says to her, that's not called stealing. What did I take? How much is this worth? They made $3 billion last year. Is this stealing? Lo tachasom shoy bedishoy.
Next step would be threatening to report it.
Sorry?
Threatening to report it before actually reporting it.
Oh, good. She tried that. Doesn't help. Should she move on to the next stage? Should she resign? Because she knows there's not going to be siyata dishmaya from this type of treatment. How can you take something which doesn't belong to you and think that this will heal a patient?
Yeah, she should.
She should resign.
Yeah, because
Once she resigns, do you want her to report?
she's Messiah the day there.
Definitely
She
Messiah.
has to when does she have to resign?
So she has to report.
So-
Once she resigns, do you also want her to report?
I don't know about report, but resign she has to.
I need documentations. You have proofs? Shas. Poiskim Shulchan Aruch.
Why would she have to resign?
What's that?
Why?
Why would she, how is she Messiah?
If she's staying there,
She's
she's
using.
assisting because she's using that stolen goods. Maybe he will stop doing it if she'll resign. Maybe he's not going to find someone else.
What if she just tells him I'm going to report you? Instead of resigning.
Good.
She
She tried to threaten him. It didn't help.
So
Some people have a problem. There's a medical term for that.
It's also for her to continue working. It's Messiah the day there.
Sure. So you want her to resign.
Yeah.
You have, when it comes to parnasa, we're very careful to jeopardize somebody else's parnasa. We need proof. You have something?
Well, Messiah the day
Documentations, papers, shas, shulchan
there.
aruch, poiskim.
It's also to be Messiah the day there.
Yeah.
You-
But to
you
tell a
want-
person to resign a case like this,
Even someone in committing an avera is an avera in its own right. I try to remember the Hebrew name. I'm
by her acquiescence, is she assisting him in his theft?
We're calling her Messiah, assisting. There's a Sefer Hasidim. For this, we need proof. Sefer Hasidim says a person comes to deposit money with your father, and the person knows that his father takes sometimes a little meiser from the money to himself. What do you do? Should you report your father? Says Sefer Hasidim, Sefer Hasidim Rabbeinu Yehuda Chassid, 1,000 years ago. When the Gdolei Rishonim, you have to tell the person, don't say with your words, just say, and if he doesn't get it, he doesn't chap what you're saying, you say, my father steals the money, go elsewhere. Sefer Hasidim says that's a great proof. He has a lot of weight, wide shoulders, Sefer Hasidim, and we can rely on him. And therefore, she must resign. I know what's going to be here. She's going to resign, and she's going to call the doctor. She's going to call the Kupat Cholim, and she has to tell them, you have to check my father before he leaves. The best thing to do is to consult a Rav to find a way to minimize the damage, but there's going to be fire here in their relationship.
If she resigns, people are going to talk and they're going to say, oh, the daughter of the parent resigned, left the company, left the hospital. People are going to start saying things. So you're going to run into Lashon Hara issues as well.
So is it better to allow this to continue?
No, I'm saying
there is going to be fire here.
Right.
But this fire is a tiny little bit compared to the fire that both of them will receive in Gehenna if she doesn't report, if she doesn't resign.
So you don't report to Medina if the punishment might be worse than what the Torah would otherwise give the person?
We're not reporting to the Medina. We're reporting to the hospital, to the clinic, in order for them to make sure it doesn't happen again. They didn't catch him yet doing it.
Put him in jail.
We're not calling the police. Sometimes we even call the police for gneva. Sometimes we do hand people over. If they're dangerous to society, we definitely will. There's a Mishnah Bura. The Mishnah Bura brings to the Magen Avraham that if somebody forges bills, we're moiser him to the Malchus, not in Eretz Yisrael, to the Goyim, even if they will kill him. Because that wrecks the economy. That's the Magen Avraham.
Why would, in the case of the Sefer Hasidim, Rav hinting that...
Kibbud avim. You're going to tell him, my father is a thief, so you hint. You say, But if he doesn't understand, you say the words. Because you must not be assisting this terrible cry of Gneva. We mentioned before the Chazon Ish, there was another Ma'aseh with the Chazon Ish. A person came to the Chazon Ish from Yerushalayim again. This person comes to the Chazon Ish and he says, Rebbe, I just came back from the hospital. I'm devastated. They told me I don't have a long time to live. Give me a bracha. Chazon Ish told him, I'm very surprised. You came here all the way from Yerushalayim. It's very expensive at that time to buy the ticket for the train. You came to a place which is going to be Suffolk open, Suffolk closed. Suffolk, I'm going to be here at the time that you come in. Suffolk not. Suffolk, they're going to allow you to come in. Usually there's a big line, from Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Maybe Suffolk, you're not going to get in. Suffolk, my bracha, is going to work. Suffolk, it's not going to work. But there's a mitzvah called Kibbud avim. Tell me, when is the last time you spent a fifth of the money you just spent on the ticket on your parents? And the Torah promises, this is a havtacha, a promise, dioraisa. Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, honor, respect your father and your mother, liman, yarichun yamecha. You should have a long life. This guy went back home and he started respecting his parents. This man said this ma'aseh over when he was 96 years old. To the Tone Rebbe. He lived not from the bracha of the Chazon Ish, from the guidance of the Chazon Ish. Tell him, you prefer a bracha from me over a havtacha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a promise d'oraisa. Listen to this ma'aseh. Another terrible, terrible ma'aseh. An old person comes to the doctor. We're going to call him Mr. Berkowitz. It's not his name. Hopefully there are no Berkowitzes here. Mr. Berkowitz comes to the doctor just to test his blood pressure. And the doctor tells him, Mr. Berkowitz, what happened to you here on the arm? Mr. Berkowitz says, Doctor, I fell. Oh. Then the doctor looks at him and says, Mr. Berkowitz, but what happened to you here on the other side? I fell, I tell you. My balance these days, it's off. I fall. Doctor says, but Mr. Berkowitz, what happened to you on the leg? I'm telling you, I fall. I fall a lot these days. You don't know what it's like. The doctor says, Mr. Berkowitz, you didn't fall. Someone is hitting you. It's very clear. Mr. Berkowitz says, what are you talking about? Somebody's hitting me. Nobody's hitting me. I fall. I told you. And the doctor says, Mr. Berkowitz, tell me who it is, and if not, I'm going to call the police. And Mr. Berkowitz says, no, don't call the police. I'll tell you who it is, but don't call the police. You know who it is? It's my son. I have only one son, and I love him dearly. He loves me. He comes every morning. He gives me breakfast. He goes to the pharmacy. He gets me medicine. Every so often, he wants a new car. $40,000. I don't want to give him the money, so he hits me. But you know, I'm willing to absorb it. It's my life. And I ask you, don't call the police because you know what's going to happen. They're going to take him away. No one takes care of me except for my son. I'm going to be left all alone. Doctor, are you going to come to visit me? You're not going to come to visit me. Please, don't call the police. It's my problem. Now, you know, in some countries, if the doctor doesn't report, the doctor himself goes to jail. But the doctor doesn't want to know what the law of the land is. The doctor wants to know, what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu want from me? Should I call the police, report the son, knowing that they're going to take him away? The father can barely take care of himself. He's very old. Or should we listen to the father? And we'll say, he's willing to absorb it. It's his problem. What do you say, Rabbi Say?
Well, we know if somebody causes a wound to father, they
Chayav Misa.
Right.
But the father says, I'm willing to take it. It's my life. Why are you intervening? Why is it your business? I'm not asking for help.
He can't stop the son from being Chayav Misa.
True. And therefore?
So even in Stam, if you knew the person hit the father, would give him Misa, even if the father says no, he doesn't want his son to be killed.
He realizes one is not allowed to strike his parents. How do we know this? What pasuk? Make aviv ve'imoi mois yumas. The Torah says, if you strike your father or your mother, mois yumas, capital punishment. But the Netziv wants to know, there seems to be a superfluous letters in that pasuk. How do you say father in Hebrew? Abba. Abba is Aramaic. Av is Hebrew. How do you say a mother in Hebrew? Aim. Why doesn't it say make av ve'aim mois yumas? Why does it say make aviv, superfluous yud vav, ve'imoi, and his mother, superfluous vav at the end of the word? Why doesn't it say make av ve'em mois yumas? And don't tell me that the Torah doesn't know these words, because in Mishlei Yutes pasuk Afres, I believe it says mishaded av yavriach aim. So we know these words. Av ve'em exist in the Tanakh. Why doesn't the Torah say make av ve'em mos yumas? Says the Netziv, a mind-boggling chiddush. Aviv, his father, means he is a father only to the son who strikes him. And yet the Torah says mos yumas, you have to kill him. Make avi ve'em, this seems mamish like our case. Even though he is the only son, and the father says, don't take him away, nobody's going to take care of me. The Torah says, mos yumas. But perhaps this doesn't really help us, because the Torah is talking about capital punishment. The Torah doesn't know what jail is. In the Torah, there's monetary laws, there's capital punishment. We're going to take him to jail. So perhaps this pasuk doesn't assist us. So we need somewhere else, a different proof. So we go to Shmuel Beis, Perek Yudalet. There's a woman from Tekoa, Isha Chachama. She was a very wise woman from Tekoa. And she came to David HaMelech and she said, David HaMelech, you know what happened? I have two sons. One of them killed the other. Please, don't take the son that's left. Don't take him away and kill him, because you're going to extinguish my flame. That's the language that she uses. And Take, David HaMelech didn't kill him. But why? Because there wasn't sufficient evidence. So we're back to square one. What do we do? This went to Maran, Rebbe Yoshev Zatzal. And Rebbe Yoshev said, we feel bad for the underdog. Poor father, he's going to be left all alone. Nobody's going to take care of him. Why don't you think about the son? Every time the son strikes his father, Misa, Misa, Misa. Capital punishment, capital punishment, capital punishment. You know, upstairs in Shamayim, there's a very big difference. If you have 6,000 capital punishments against you, or 6,000 102. A person is in jail for 15 years. After 10 years, his friend is able to sneak in and tells him, come, have a way out. Will he say, no, it's fine, I only have 5 years to go. Shigge, get out! If you have 6,000 misa against you, you don't want 6,001. And therefore take the son away. Separate him from the father. Call the police. The father, you worried about the father? Don't worry about the father. We have so many chesed organizations that they're going to take care of him. They're going to come 25 hours a day. They're going to come 1 hour earlier. They're going to take care of him better than his son took care of him. And therefore, call the police and take the son who is hitting his father away. We said Rabbi Yosef said, we'll say something from his son-in-law. Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Shlita had a brilliant insight. In the Sfarim HaKadoshim it says that if one respects his parents, we talked about it before, so his kids will respect him. It's a famous Baal HaTurim. And tzedakah, if you give, it comes right back to you. Says the Baal HaTurim, Venatnu, and they shall give. If you read it from the right to the left, from the left to the right, it's the same letters. Venatnu, Vav, Nun, Taf, Nun, Vav, can be read from right to left, left to right, to tell you that whatever you give away to tzedakah comes right back to you. So it seems that the same thing works with Kibbud Avayim, with respecting your parents. But where do you see that in the pasuk? Says Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Reb Chaim Kanievsky's pure eyes look at the Torah, and when he sees Parshas Toldos, he sees two words, and they pop into his eyes. Who was the number one, the champion of all time in Kibbud Avayim? Esav Harasha. That's what the Gemara says. Every time he went to visit his father, he wore a shtaimer. He got ready. I'm going to see my father. Esav was number one. When he brought food to his father, the Torah says, Vayaveh le'aviv, and he brought to his father. If you look at these two words and you read them from right to left and from left to right, you're going to get the same thing. Vayaveh vav yud veis aleph, le'aviv lamed aleph veis yud vav. This works much better if you can write it down somehow. Sorry, I can't do that here, but you'll take it home and you'll write it down for yourself. Vayaveh le'aviv, and he brought to his father. You read it from the right to left, you read it from the left to right, it's the same. To tell you, just like Natnu in the tzedakah. Whatever you give to your parents, however you respect them, will come right back to you. Comes the Netziv with a mind-boggling shayla. In the Amek Davar, in Parshas Yisrael. How far is Newark from here? Half an hour. What's the closest another airport? JFK. It's probably longer. An hour and something.
Trends about the same distance.
Your father-in-law is landing in JFK. Your wife is landing in Newark. Whom do you have to go and greet? The Hamek Davar asks this question in his Perush in Parshas Yisrael, beginning of the Parsha. Whom should you go? You have two airports. Not necessarily because it's greater distance. You're sitting in the middle of Queens and you have LaGuardia and you have JFK. But your wife is landing in one and your father-in-law is landing in the other. Whom should you go? Should you greet your father-in-law? Or should you greet your wife? What do you say?
Wife.
The wife. Why?
You have a chiyuv to honor her.
You don't have a chiyuv towards your father-in-law?
No. I don't think you do, right?
Is this recorded? This is no good.
Not the same level.
You're supposed to honor them, but you don't have a chiyuv to.
Where do we learn that we're supposed to honor our father-in-law and our mother-in-law? Big Chiddush. And the mother-in-law. From David HaMelech. Avi, he calls to Shaul HaMelech, who was his father-in-law. From here we learn that you have to call your father-in-law Abba. Or Dad, whatever works. You have to honor your father-in-law. It's not the same level of Kibbud Avayim, which is the Oraisa, but you do.
Avelis also is Avelis for father-in-law.
Yeah.
Together Kibbud.
True. So you're saying the wife, why? Comes the Netziv and says, nine. Comes the Netziv and says, what does the Torah say? Yisroi comes together with Tzipporah, the wife of Moshe Rabbeinu, after Moshe Rabbeinu didn't see his wife for years. She comes with her kids. Yet, the Torah says, Vayetze Moshe likras Choisnai. Moshe came out to greet his father-in-law. Why does the Torah say that? Why doesn't the Torah say Moshe Rabbeinu came to see his wife, whom he didn't see for so many years, and his kids? And the pasuk before says that Yisrael is coming hand in hand with his daughter Tzipporah and with the Einaglach, But Moshe Rabbeinu came to greet his father-in-law. Moyadik. What happens when you come to greet your father-in-law? In essence, you're honoring your wife. Is there a greater cover to the wife when you're honoring her father? Hard to think about one. If it's going to cause shalom bayis issues, we're not there, not that pasha. When everything else is equal, comes the Netziv with his mind-boggling chiddush and says, you see from this pasuk in the Torah that one should come to greet his father-in-law and not his wife. Mother-in-laws, mothers. Let's say something about mother. One of Gedolei Yisrael, his name is Reb Moshe Sternbuch. You heard of Reb Moshe Sternbuch? The Ravid of the Eid HaCharedis. Reb Moshe came to Israel from London, and he was called the Londonish Ilui. Everybody knew. He was 18 years old, and he was an Ilui. Brilliant. And he used to speak and learning with the Chabiner Rov, the Doivev Misharim. One day he came into the Doivev Misharim, to the Chabiner Rov, and the Chabiner Rov asked him a kasha, $1 million kasha, a very difficult question. And Reb Moshe Sternbuch answered on the spot. And the Chabiner Rov looked at him, and he said, this is not yours. Whew. Became all red. What do you mean it's not me? You asked me a question, and I think this is the answer. This is not yours. Doivev Misharim says to you something like that, you tremble. And Reb Moshe was an Ilui, but he was only 18 or 19 years old. And he says, Rebbe, this is what I think. This is not yours. I'll tell you where this answer came from. Your mother probably shed so many tears when she was lighting Shabbos candles that she should have a son, a Talmid Chochem, and it worked. This answer can't come from an 18, 19-year-old guy. This comes from the tears of a Yiddish mama. So what we said before, the parents daven for us if we respect them. The truth is, even if we don't respect them. But how much more so, their tefillos do so much noise in Shamayim. And we'll be able, Mitzvah Hashem, to have the longevity as promised in the Torah and other merits that come with it. There was a guy who lost his wife. He was 60 years old. He married a 40-year-old doctor. They had a contract. He's 60, she's 40. Who knows what's going to be here? They made a contract. After I die, the husband says, half of the assets will go to the new wife, to the doctor. 20 years later, this guy is 80 and she is 60. Now he has Alzheimer's. Lo aleinu. And they need constant supervision. Somebody has to be there to go and check. And they brought in doctors and they checked and they said, now we need a doctor to come twice a week. The doctor, his wife, says, I'm qualified. I can be the person coming and checking twice a week. We don't need to bring an outside doctor because you know it's going to be very embarrassing to me if you bring a doctor from the outside. She says to his sons, you know what it's going to mean? It's going to mean to the people that you don't trust me. The sons don't really trust her because they know in the contract it says if he dies, half of his assets go to her. She has motivation to perhaps not give the best of treatments. I'm not going to the other side, Chadila. But maybe she is not going to take care of him like somebody from the outside. But she says, how can you do this to me? My whole reputation will go down the drain. You can't bring somebody from the outside. It's just going to mean that you guys don't trust me, that I'm not a good doctor, that you suspect Chalila something. This came to Maran Rebbe Eliezer Shiflita. Zatzal. What do you think? Should we listen to the sons or should we listen to the wife? The Torah said, Kaved es avicha ve'es imecha. But you can cut it short. You can say, Kaved avicha ve'imecha. Or Kaved avicha ve'es imecha. Kaved es avicha ve'imecha. 3 ways to do it. Shorter than what the Torah said. Why does the Torah say another word, es? The word es always comes to add, to include something. Says the Gemara in Ksubis, Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph. This es, this and, comes to include your stepmother. You have to honor and respect her as well. So the sons here are mechuyav towards their stepmother. She is very, very embarrassed with this whole situation. But the question is, since there is what is called nigius, she has a personal motivation here perhaps. Should we listen to the sons or should we listen to the mother? Stepmother? What do you say? What do you say? Who do we listen to?
What, the sons think that she's going to kill the father?
We don't know if she's going to kill. You're using very harsh words. We don't like to use harsh words.
So, that's what
They
I'm saying.
don't know if she's going to give the best treatment possible when she knows
What?
half of the Yerusha, and we're talking big bucks.
Right, so the motivation is to end his life to get the Yerusha.
Oh.
So that's
So can we trust her? On the other hand, she's saying, you're embarrassing me. Who gave you permission to embarrass? Your mother. I'm your stepmother, but I'm still your mother. And the Torah says you have to honor me.
What's their base? What's their
I don't know where they get
basis
the claim
for
that-
suspecting her? It's just
The basis is called $5 million.
a lousy basis.
Ooh, for most people, it's a very big motivation. You know how I know? So Gemara Baba Basra, Kuf Samechei, Amud Beis, Amud Aleph. I'm sorry. The Gemara says, Rov ha'olam stumble and gezer. Most of the world stumble on some aspect of gezer. So apparently, money has a lot of power.
What about what about is it ethical for a family member to be another family member's doctor? Isn't it better to have someone who's like impartial?
Wouldn't you want to save money?
I'd rather save his life.
You suspect me?
I
I'm
mean,
going to.
if-
He is my husband. I'm going to give him the best of treatments.
Like
Why would you suspect me?
If someone goes to an emergency room and their father's the emergency room doctor, he's not going to be as objective as someone who's not.
It's
his
the
father.
greatest. He's probably going to give the best treatment possible.
I don't
Is that how
know.
it works? I
It's
thought,
not like they got married yesterday. They got married 20 years ago.
20 years and you see that I'm a good, honest person. Why would you suspect me? Very embarrassing.
What would the father want if he were?
Who gets the other half?
Good question. We don't know.
Who gets the other half? Isn't it the sons who get the other half?
We
Why
stumble.
don't we suspect them that they want to bring in an inferior nurse so he'll die quicker and they'll get their share?
It's normal for sons to inherit their parents. It's not always the case that the wife gets half of the assets when she's a stepmother.
but it's already contractually written out that she's going to get half.
Again,
Yes, that's why. Why did she have this contract written 20 years ago when she was 40? Maybe she was planning something back then.
You say he's Alzheimer's. It's already like it's not like he's not going to be able to change the contract anyhow.
True.
It's already done.
True.
Maybe
But the
there's no
son
more-
wants to make sure his life.
The only thing that she can lose is if she dies first. I mean, other than that,
It looks like it's not such a good situation for the father. The son wants to make sure his father lives for the longest time possible.
maybe because it's a riboy, so therefore it's a lower degree of covet.
What about Kavod the Briois?
Covet of the mother, no, it's kibbud up versus the kibbud of the stepmother. So the kibbud of the stepmother is learned out from a riboy of the S.
And therefore you have to listen to the.
Therefore you have to listen to her, but
You have to listen
but
to her.
when it's versus her versus a level of kibbud up towards the father to get better service.
You have documentations?
No.
Shulchan Aruch, Gemore, Bavli or Yerushalmi, I'll take anything.
I was really asking, but it's.
Poiskim. I have a Gemore. Ksubis the Kuf Beis Amud Beis, one page before the S of the Ribui of the stepmother. Gemore says an unbelievable thing. If a father dies, they're little children. What do we do with the little children? The brothers say, oh, they'll stay with us. And the mother says, no, I want to keep the little children. What do we do? Says the Gemara, don't give it to the brothers. You know why? We're afraid. Maybe the brothers will kill their younger brother because then they'll get a bigger share in the Yerusha. And the Gemara says an unbelievable Maise happened, this same Maise, and on the first night that the parent died, the brothers killed their younger brother. V'yesh oimrim, says the Gemara, that this happened Erev Rosh Hashanah. What do you see from here? When there's negius, when there's personal agenda, when there's something for you to benefit, we don't trust you. You were a great doctor for the last 60 years, but suddenly when you have something to gain, and we see the same thing with kashrus. The halacha is, you invite me to your house, you have a cheskas kashrus, you're a kosher yid, I can eat by you. But when you open a restaurant, the same person, now I'm going to require a certificate from Va'ad Rabbanim before I enter your establishment. Same person, same hands, same kitchen. But when you have money to gain, when you have something to gain, suddenly the kashrut status has been shaken. And therefore, the achra in this case was that we don't listen to the wife. We don't listen to the doctor, and we listen to the sons. Harsh as this may seem.
But Larry's point is well taken. That the sons also have a motivation to provide
Yeah.
poor care, and they may want inferior care because their portion of the Yerusha will be eaten away the longer he lives.
Right. But they're saying we want to bring the
Together,
top
not go well.
geriatric doctor in the land. And they're willing to spend the money, their own money. So they're proving to us that they really want the father to live. And they don't trust his wife. We said this pasuk many times already tonight. Honor, respect your father and your mother. Leman ya'arichun yamecha. But again, there's a superfluous letter here. Why doesn't it say leman ya'arichu yamecha? Why ya'arichun? With the extra nun, what is it doing there? Some explain from the Rishonim. Ya'arichun will extend your life. Not that the mitzvah will extend your life. The nun, the ya'arichun, goes on the parents. Honor, respect your parents, so they will extend your life by the koyach of the tefillah, because they will daven for you, like we said before. We always thought, leman ya'arichun, if you do this mitzvah will extend your life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you extra life. Yes, the life comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but how? Leman ya'arichun, they will extend your life. The parents that you just respected from the beginning part of the pasuk, they will extend your life through the koyach of tefillah, because they're not going to stop davening for you.
This comes out frequent when older parents holding it, and it comes out of Shala, herbal medicines, all these medicines, what's not proven, vitamins, but I'm talking about doctors and being oxygen and all this stuff. And these arguments between two sides, and it's like one holds that it's mamish b'kiyach nefesh, he's saving his father's life, and one holds the other side holds that this is all it doesn't start, it's spending spending. So what's
There was a ma'aseh like this yesterday. I gave a shiur on Shabbos about doctors and patients, and different mistakes that doctors do, and relationships of doctors and patients. So we brought a shaila that came also to Rabbi Yosef, that touches on the same idea. A wife lost her eyesight suddenly, and all the doctors in Eretz Yisrael say there's nothing we can do. But there's one Chinese doctor here in the States who says, I can fix the problem. This is going to be very expensive business. The husband wants to know, am I obligated to go to the States, to go to the Chinese doctor? Or doctors in Israel say the Chinese doctor is not going to fix it. This is a problem that is here to stay. Can I listen to the doctors in Israel, or am I mechuyav to go to the States to spend the money? It's going to be very expensive. And Rabbi Yosef in this case said, Me'ikar adin, halachically, the person doesn't have to spend the money for his wife. Why? There is a concept called kimli. I hold, the husband can say, like those doctors in Eretz Yisrael that say that the Chinese doctor can't help, and this is a problem that can't be solved. However, Rabbi Yosef said, there's a Gemara in Yevamos Samech Beis. You have to love your wife like you love yourself. Ohava kegufo. Umechabda yoisa megufo. You have to honor, respect your wife better than you treat yourself. And tell me, Rabbi Yosef asked, would you go to the state to the Chinese doctor? Mistama, you would. And if that's the case, you have to do the same for your wife. Except if you don't have the money, and you can't borrow the money, or you can borrow the money, but you don't know where the money will come to repay the loan, then you can't. Because you can't do mitzvahs on somebody else's cheshbon. You want to do gmilos chasadim on somebody else's cheshbon? No. But if you can't get the money, or you can borrow, and you know from where the money is going to come to repay, then you're mechuyev to do this. It's a very difficult question. Halacha doesn't recognize percentage. So today it's very hard to say that with alternative medicine, if it's 15%, we'll say yes. If it's 7%, no. 50% maybe. What's the cutoff line? We don't find by the Rishonim percentage. They didn't speak in this language. They speak about rov. We need something that we can quantify, some kind of numbers. Otherwise, it's very, very hard. And obviously, it's case per case. Listen to this, Maisa. A guy lives in Eretz Yisrael. He is going to make a bar mitzvah for his son. His father lives here in the States, not in Highland Park. You will see soon why. The father used to have a very strong connection to his son's rabbi. The father used to live in Eretz Yisrael, and then the father left. The son maintained the connection. The father had a terrible, terrible fight with the Rav of his son. And it was such a big machlokes. So now the father calls him and says, listen, I can't wait to come to the bar mitzvah of my grandson. But I have two conditions that you must meet in order for me to come. You must not invite your rabbi to the bar mitzvah. And you know that big picture you have in the living room of the rabbi? You have to remove it. And if you don't, I'm going to call all your cousins and all your uncles, everybody who's planning to come, and believe me, they're going to listen to me and nobody's going to come. Now the son, poor son, comes now to ask a question. He came to Reb Zilberstein, the son-in-law of Reb Eliashiv Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. And he asks, what am I supposed to do? Should I not invite my rabbi? You know what happens when I see my Rav? I see the picture in the living room. I get a boost of Yiras Shamayim, Kedusha, Tahara. Just his face, Yiras Shamayim is pouring out. It's my Rav. Should I not invite him? You know how embarrassing it's going to be? Or, it's Kibbud Avayim. My father tells me to do something. What do you do?
Did the father teach him Torah?
Did the father teach his son Torah? Mistama. Torah Tzevelanu Moshe. First pasuk you say to your kids, Shema Yisrael Mistama. Aleph Beis 2. He taught him a little. Why? Why do you ask?
The tzina says that if the father and if Rabbi are drowning, so you save the Rabbi because the Rabbi.
That is prioritization. If your father and your Rav lost something, or they're in prison, or you have to help one of them, so we assess who should you help first. Normally the Rav, because he's going to bring you to Chaya Olam Haba. The father only brought you to Olam Hazeh, but if the father also taught you Torah, so he has two for the price of one. He brings you to Olam Hazeh and to Olam Haba. He comes first. But this is when it comes to you have to give back something, Hashavas Aveda, to redeem them from jail, to help. We're talking about a different case. The father wants me not to invite my rabbi to my son's bar mitzvah. Can you imagine?
Isn't that gonna be a bizayon to the Rav?
Tremendous bizayon.
So that's, you can't listen to his father, and that's
Kibbud Avayim. We just spoke about the merits of Kibbud Avayim.
That's the only way he's telling him to do the Rav now.
You have proofs, papers, documentations, Shulchan Aruch, Gemara, Poiskim, something. You want me not to listen to a father? You have to provide documentation. What's that? Yeah. What's that is? Es Hashem Elokei Chatira. Parashat Vayischanan. What do we learn from that is? Who said that? Shimon Amsoni. Ve'amri lo Nechemia Amsoni. Gemara appears 4 times in Shas. So the Gemara. Maybe we'll say something cute about that. The Gemara says in Psochim Chav Beis Amud Beis. Again, Kiddushin Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Babakam Mem Aleph Amud Beis. And Bechoros Davav Amud Beis. Shimon Amsoni, and some say it was Nechemia Amsoni. Hayadoyesh Kol Esin Shebatoira. Every time it says the word es, we said before, it comes to add something. So he spent his life darshaning all the esim. You know how many esim there are in a Torah? Give a guess. How many esim do you think there's in Torah? Close to 4,000 esim. Until Shimon Amsoni got stuck when he got to a pasuk in Parshas Vayischanan last week. A pasuk says, Es Hashem Elokei Chatira. And Shimon Amsoni said, how can we add anything to the fear that one has to have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And therefore, Piresh, he stopped. He stopped his lifelong mission. And the Talmidim asked, Rebbe, so what's going to be with all the esim that you're dorish until now? And Shimon Amsoni said, just like I got reward for the drisha, for darshaning, for teaching each es, so too I will get reward for the prisha, for stopping. Says the Gemara, ad, until Sheba Rabbi Kiva, until Rabbi Kiva came and he taught es lerabos talmidei chachamim. We have to have the same honor and respect that we have to Hashem, towards talmidei chachamim. Shimon Amsoni didn't know this. Only Rabbi Kiva can teach this. Shimon Amsoni is a Tana. Rabbi Kiva is also a Tana. Why is it that Dafka Rabbi Kiva is the one who taught this? Some explain because in Psochim Mem Tes, Rabbi Kiva says on himself, he testifies, when I was on Am Haaretz, I used to say, Mi yitan li talmid chochem ve'enshacheno kachamor. If I see a Talmid Chochem, I will bite him like a donkey. You need a tikkun for that. So Rebbe Kiva is the one who comes and says, es, to include Talmidei Chachamim. You have to have the same fear of a Kodesh Baruch Hu that you have towards Talmidei Chachamim. And with that, he does a tikkun to what he did then. Some explain no. You know what happened? Shimon HaAmsoni, darshan, and he got stuck in this pasuk. And he kept learning in Beis HaMikdash, steiging. And one day, somebody opened the door. And Torah was radiating. He saw Eitana. He saw Rebbe Kiva coming into the Beis Medrash and says, "Whoa, what is this? Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. This is what it means. L'Rabos Talmidei Chachamim." We read the Gemara wrong. Shimon HaAmsoni used to darshan all the essence in the Torah, and then he stopped. Until when? Until when did he stop? Ad Sheba Rebbe Kiva. Until Rebbe Kiva came, and then Shimon HaAmsoni himself continued and said, now I understand. L'Rabos, a person like this, a Talmid Chochem like Rebbe Akiva. This is cute. It's not emes. You know what the pshat is? The pshat is mind-boggling. It's a Musa Haskel. Shimon HaAmsoni darshaned all the Esin and the Torah, and it took him years. Mistama, 20, 30, 40 years. Imagine, more than 4,000, around 4,000 Esim. And Mistama, he wrote dozens of books, and he distributed them all over in Eretz Yisrael, in America, in the internet, digital type. Everybody had his books. But then he got stuck in this pasuk. And he said, Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, can you add something to the fear that one has to have toward the Kodesh Baruch Hu? It means that I was wrong. And if one S doesn't work, so the whole system is wrong. Guys, I was wrong. And Shimon HaAmsoni went online and he said, recall for all my books, bring them back. Can you imagine today somebody doing this? Professor, investing 30, 40 years. At the end, he realizes, made a mistake. Will he say that? He'll find a way to manipulate to say, yes, I was right, I will just stay quiet. Shimon HaAmsoni said, guys, I'm wrong, I was wrong all along. When Rebbe Kiva heard there's such a man with such noble qualities, Gevura Eloikis, an unbelievable character traits, coming only from one who can cling to the Torah and cling to Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's why it was Dafka Rebbe Kiva who said, Es Hashem Elokecha Tira, comes to include people like Shimon HaAmsoni, who wasn't afraid, wasn't embarrassed, had the courage to say, I was wrong all along. My whole life I was wrong. That's why Dafka Rebbe Kiva taught this, and not Shimon HaAmsoni. But back to our question. What do? We need proofs for what you said. We need documentation.
Another place it talks about Kibbud and it says, honor your father and mother and keep my Sabbaths. And it says that you're not allowed to commit an avera when you're even.
What avera will he commit?
No, he's being Bizayon Talmidei Chachamim.
Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat. I'm sorry. Yoredea. Simen Reish Mem Seif Tet Zayin. The Shulchan Aruch says, if the father commands his son, don't speak to another. I had the fight with this guy. Don't talk to him. Al Yachush Letzava Asoy. Don't listen to the father. The Shach and the Taz explain over there. Why is that? Because in essence, the father is commanding you to transgress an Isur. Lo tisna sachicha bilvavecha. You're not allowed to hate another Jewish person, and the father is actually commanding you to hate one, and therefore you don't have to listen to the father. But the son says, Shkoyach, what am I supposed to do? My father's not going to come. So Reb Zilberstein told him a beautiful thing. On the day of the Bar Mitzvah, you take a couple bottles of wines, and you take goodies, snacks, and great things, and you come with your whole family to the Rav, and you say, Rebbe, this is the Bar Mitzvah. We came to get a bracha from you, and to hear a Dvar Torah from you, and my son will say shtickle here. The Rav will understand. The Rav is not stupid. He will understand. Then at night, he's not going to show up for the Bar Mitzvah. He's not invited. But the Bar Mitzvah was already this morning. Take the picture in the living room and hide it behind the Rashba, behind the Ran. Every time you take out the Rashba, you'll see a Rav. Now you can call your father and say, Abba, asiti kechol asher tzivitani. I did everything you told me. I didn't invite my Rav to the Bar Mitzvah. I removed the picture from where it was. But after this happened, you know what happened? The father has now a new demand. He says, I want you to cut the relationship, to sever the ties you have between you and the Rav. You must do this, otherwise I'm not coming. Reb Zilberstein came up with a brilliant idea here. He says to the son, you know what you do? You can't do this because Bizayon Arav, this is a Rav that you learn Torah from. You can't do this. So I'll tell you what you do. You take a tiny little string and you tie it to the button. You come to your Rav and you say, B'mchila mikvod Torasoi. With all due respect, I'm sorry. However, maybe you can assist me with one little thing. Take the other end of this string and please, Rav, tie it to your suit. And the Rav will do it. He will look at you very strange, but he will do it. And then, take a pair of scissors. Cut the string and call your father and say, Abba, I cut the ties, I severed the ties, the connection between me and my Rav. Because you can't listen to a father when he demands something, as you said, which is against the Torah.
What would have been the case by Chasna?
It's a problem. A big problem. Why is it a problem? Because Mistama, the father, is the one who wants to pay for it. Only if his demands are met.
And you can't do a chasana by the Rav's house in the morning.
Yeah. L'chora, you have to go to the Rav and you have to tell him, this is the mice, this is the matzav, and I feel so bad. And the Rav must understand that I don't want to do what my father demands. Maybe the Rav has a suggestion. And Mistama, the Rav will say, oh, I don't want to come between you and your father. So for the time that your father spends here, I'll step away. Don't worry about it. But the son cannot cut the relationship with his Rav.
And he can let his father think, you mislead his father to think that he did something even though he didn't?
Absolutely.
Sheker?
It's Gnevas Das. But in this case, you know how many cases we have of changing the truth for Darkei Shalom? You have almost Samech Dalet. Who is the first one who did this? HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Avram and Sarah. Sarah said something. Kodesh Baruch Hu changed from what Sarah said, so Avram wouldn't get hurt. We find it in many places in Shas. Sanhedrin Yud Aleph, 3 cases back to back. Somebody came into the Shiur and he just apparently ate garlic before. So Rebbe said, who is it that ate garlic here? The place, I can't give a Shiur. So what happened? Very embarrassing. Somebody stood up. Who was it? I think Reb Chia. He stood up and he walked out. Did he eat garlic? He can't stand garlic. He didn't eat garlic in the last 10 years. But in order not to embarrass someone, he made it as if he did. Gnevas Das. Somebody came into the Shiva Reb Meir. A lady came in and said, Rebbe, somebody last night was Mekadesh me Bevia. Reb Meir wrote a get to her. Was it Reb Meir? Chas v'chalila. And after he did, everybody else wrote a get. Not to embarrass a person. We have many, many examples of that throughout Shas. But Metziach Chav Beis Amud Beis, the Gemara says Talmid Chochem is allowed to change in 3 things. There's different reasons why one can change from the truth. For tznius, for shalom, many, many reasons. One of them is here. Not to destroy the relationship between you and your father, but chalila, not to destroy the relationship between you and the Rav. There was a guy who was 20 years old. He's adopted. His biological parents dropped him when he was about 1.5 years old because they found out that he has this illness that he's never going to recover from, a terrible, terrible machla. The truth is, it was a mistake. Baruch Hashem, he's fine. He's one of the greatest bachurim in the yeshiva. Now, when he's 20 years old, he got permission from the government and from his adopting parents to open up the file, to find out who is his real parents. He comes to Reb Aaron Yudah Lev Shteiman and he asks, should I open the file or not? What's the shaila? He says, I hate my biological parents for doing what they did. I can't stand them. Should I open the file or not? Technically, can be a big problem here. If he doesn't know who his biological parents are, what can potentially happen? He can go and marry his sister. Gilu Erayos. So he says that's not an issue. Because his adopting parents will take care of this. And they know who the biological parents are. And they will take care and make sure this doesn't happen. This is not an issue. Before he went to Reb Steinman, he went to Reb Zilberstein. And Reb Zilberstein told him, you hate your parents? I have an idea. Before you open up the file, every day you come to me, and we'll spend a half an hour learning Musa. Pasuk says, Lo tisna es achicha bilvavecha. How can you hate? another Yid, and especially your parents, will learn Musa every day for half an hour, and that will take care of the problem. But Reb Zilberstein wasn't sure, so he went with him to Reb Steinman. And Reb Steinman said, don't open the file. The guy just told you he can't stand his parents. The Gemara in Kiddushin, the Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph says a mind-boggling thing. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ashrei mi shelo chaman. Praiseworthy is the person who never saw his parents. Mind-boggling. Rabbi Yochanan himself never saw his parents. His mother died during childbirth, and his father died when his mother was pregnant. Rabbi Yochanan is saying to us that this mitzvah is so hard to fulfill. With all the details, inevitably somebody is going to transgress. And therefore, praiseworthy, not that we Khalila want our parents to die, but praiseworthy is a person who never met his parents, like me, says Rabbi Yochanan, because he will never transgress this so difficult mitzvah. Rabbi Steinman says, this guy is telling you he can't stand his parents, so you know he's going to transgress. So you want him to open up the file? Don't open up the file. This is called psak be'izmel charif, sharp knife, that you need to have the broad shoulders of Gadol Ado, Maran, Evaron Yudah Reb Steinman, to say such a thing. If we say Reb Steinman, maybe we'll say a ma'aseh about him. There was a guy who came to Reb Steinman, and he went to the Gabbai and he said, Gabbai, I want to ask the Rebbe a shayla, but don't stop me in the middle. He says, fine. And if you know Reb Steinman is a tiny little man. He's 100 years old, and he's a person who basically doesn't enjoy this world. Doesn't take anything from this world. The house is basically books, and also some books. And there's also books in the house. But otherwise there's nothing. So this guy comes to Reb Steinman and says, Rebbe, do you like steak? Steinman looks at him. Steak? What is that? What? You don't know what steak is? It's the best part of the animal, a juicy piece of meat. I don't know what it is. Rebbe, do you want to try a piece of steak? I can get you a piece of steak. No, thank you. The guy says to him, Rebbe, does the Rosh Yeshiva like ice cream? What's ice cream? What? You don't know what ice cream is? Sugar, dessert, sweet. Everybody loves it. I don't know what it is. Can I get the Rosh Yeshiva some ice cream? No. At this point, Reb Steinman looks at the Gabbai. What does this guy want from me? The Gabbai gets up and he's about to throw this guy out. And the guy says, wait! I told you not to stop me in the middle. The Rosh Yeshiva, he says, it's been 10 years that I'm going from one yeshiva to another yeshiva, from another yeshiva to another yeshiva, and they tell me that I don't have the tam in limud, don't have the flavor, the taste for limud. Here I ask you about different taste, flavors you didn't even want to try. I tried. So what am I supposed to do? What do I need to do? What do you want from me? And Rosh Steinman on the spot told him, tell me, what is the sweetest food that there is out there? The guy says, I don't know. Maybe honey. Good. Is there anyone that will tell us that honey is not sweet? The guy says, yeah, if somebody's not normal, he'll say it's not sweet. No. Somebody who's normal, who will tell us that honey is not sweet. He says, there's no such thing. Reb Steinman says, of course there is. If somebody has gum disease, if he has cavities, honey is not sweet at all. It's torturous. So what's the solution? Fix the problem in your mouth and you'll enjoy the sweet taste of honey. If someone says Reb Steinman doesn't enjoy the sweet taste of Torah, which is far sweeter than honey, obviously there's a problem with the mouth. Listen, I don't know you. Maybe you're eating the wrong things. You're not allowed to eat. Maybe you're cheating. Maybe Lashon Hara. I don't know you. Fix the problem in the mouth. You'll enjoy the sweet taste of Torah. It's Reb Steinman. There was a couple where the husband becomes a Baal Tshuva, and he's escalating, ascending to the highest of heights. The wife, the further he goes, she's on the other side. This is Mizrach, this is Marav. Obviously, they couldn't continue like this, and therefore they separated. There was one little daughter, 8 years old. So the agreement was that she will live with the mother, but she will go to a frum school. But the mother said on one condition, no mitzvahs at home. Finish all your daily mitzvahs in school. You don't bring any mitzvahs to the house. And only with that condition she's willing that the daughter will go to a frum school. Good. The daughter has a problem. She comes home and she wants to eat an apple. So that's not a problem. No problem. The mother didn't see. If the mother will see her saying brachos, she's in big, 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 big trouble. The daughter is so strong in her Yiddishkeit, and she's advancing. And you know what happened? She went to her teacher, and she said to her, proudly, she explained the whole Maaseh, and she said, you know what I do? When it comes to Tilas Yadayim, I make believe that I wash my hands. Very important before you eat. As if I'm using soap and washing my hands. She really doesn't. Tilas Yadayim, the mother doesn't see. When it comes time to eat the apple, it's also not a problem. But when it comes time to bench, that's a long bracha. I don't know it by heart. And even if I did, if I'll sit it too long, my mother's going to catch me sitting in the kitchen. You know what I do? She says to her teacher, I have a little bencher I keep in my pocket. When the mother doesn't see, I run into the bathroom. I close the door. Nobody's going to bother me. And then she's able to say the entire benching. And she's so proud. Telling this to the teacher, Mamash Tzadikis, this girl has a neshama like the Moranos. A very high level neshama. But now the teacher doesn't know what to do. And she went to ask the Shaila, do you allow this girl to continue doing what she's doing? Saying a bracha in the bathroom? Or perhaps there's another Eitzah. Or maybe we should just tell her to stop benching. She can't bench in front of the mother. That's not shaykh. What do we do?
Close the lid of the toilet.
You know, it used to be that the bathroom was a very unpleasant room. Today, in many homes, it's the cleanest, best smelling room in the house. But we still can't say brachos in the bathroom. It's a bizayon of the highest level. So what do we do? Not pashut.
Tell her to keep eating every hour so she till it's time to bed and go to sleep and bench when she's going to sleep.
Is that healthy? You think there's enough food in the house to allow this? I doubt. Ultimately, we need a solution. She is going to sleep before the mother, so that's not going to help us. The mother's going to tuck her in. She's only 8 years old, 10 years old.
Does it help if you open the window? Avoid washing up bread. If you open the window, does that help?
It's still a bizayon of the highest level. Avoid eating bread. You know what that reminds me? It's a big tzaddik in Yerushalayim. The Yam Shenover Rebbe. You heard of the Yam Shenover Rebbe? The Yam Shenover Rebbe doesn't eat bread during the week, only on Shabbos. You know why? Because it takes him 3 hours to bench. Who has 3 hours? Middle of the week. Shabbos you have to eat, so he eats bread. But this girl needs to eat bread. Chazal say, Pas Shachis, Bab Metzia. Saves you from 13 things. It's very important for her health. She needs to grow. She's a tiny little girl. She needs the bread. She likes the bread. And we want her to eat bread. But we need an eitzah. What can we do? She needs to say benching when she finishes eating. Boy, so how do we help this little girl? Not so pashut. According to many poskim, that's not a good eitzah. If she's koveya or suda on it, it's a problem. You have an eitzah for this little girl? We have to help a little girl. Yiddish again wants to do tshuva, we're not going to help her. It's a Mishnah Bura.
There's no way to make it better in the bathroom. I mean, a flush toilet with the cover on it is already like a Persian toilet.
And
you
spray
can
and
put covers over it, so that
it's still a bizayon Torah, and we can't allow to say brachos in a place like this. But there's a Mishnah Bura that comes to our rescue. Shulchan Aruch Or Chaim. Siman Kuf Pei Zayin, Seif Dalet, the Mishnah Bura says that it is implied from some of the Achronim that a person can't say the whole benching, he can say 6 words. What are the 6 words? Brich Rachmana Malko. Mare de Hai Pita. It's just like saying Baruch Atah Hashem, the master of this bread. 6 words. We can teach her to say 6 words, and with time, Mitzvah Hashem, she'll be able to say the entire thing. 6 words she can say. It seems, says the Mishnah Bura, that we can be noyeg like this lechatchila with our kids. That is how many Chabadniks do. That is how they educate their kids. There's another Eitzah. There's the Koshik Lover, the Eretz Tzvi. He writes that B'di'evid, one can even say Boire Nefashois for bread. He's a Das Yechida. Nobody holds like the Koshik Lover. Maybe in this extreme situation, maybe we'll hold like him, but Mistama, it's much easier to go with the Mishnah Berurah brings, in the name of the Achronim, that all she needs to know is 6 words. Brich Rachmana Malka. Mare Dehai Pita. Blessed is you, thou, Baruch Ato Hashem, the master of this bread. That Mistama should be able to do.
If she would go in the shower, someone said if she would go in the shower and close the door, it's a separate rishus. Could you do that?
You know, so some bathrooms are connected to the laundry room or to another room, but there's no door with a curtain. In her house, she didn't have it. It was a bathroom. But even if it was, we don't like to say brachos in a place like this. Even though in many homes this is the cleanest room, there is.
It's a separate rishus. If you have a mechitza.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
Brachos, it says you're not Yosef if you don't say bris, if you don't say Torah, if you don't say Eretz.
Says the Mishnah Berurah. We can educate our kids to say this because anyways our kids don't know to say the entire benching. And that's how some people are knowing. Until she finds out how to do it, and maybe she'll wait till her mother gets out of the house. Until then, at least she'll say this, which the Mishnah Berurah says that it can work. How much time do we have? I don't know what time it is. So, we said so many things about the virtues of Kibbud Av V'Em. Since we mentioned Abba and a son, maybe we'll say one more Maaseh, which I think is a mitzvah to tell this Maaseh. Mamish a mitzvah. This happened about 1.5 years ago. In Bnei Brak, there was a kid who was hospitalized, Lo Aleinu, almost died. And he was rushed to the hospital, and the doctor did major surgery, and Baruch Hashem, kid is okay. Still in the hospital. The father comes in the morning to thank the doctor. And he says to him, wow, you were such a good shaliach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent you right at the right time. And the doctor says, what shaliach? I saved your son's life. And the father says, no. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved my son's life. He sent you as a shaliach. And the doctor says, no. I'm in charge of this department for many years. And believe me, I didn't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in many, many years. I saved your son's life, and he's not the only one that I save. I saved many people's lives, all the time. The father can't believe he hears this. And he says to the doctor, what are you talking about? It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu governs the world, and he's in control, and he does. And the doctor says, what are you talking about? I'm in control in this hospital, and I run the show. And they start arguing. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours. After 2 hours, the doctor says, listen, if you really think that there is a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he's in control of everything, you have 24 hours to prove it to me. The guy goes out of the hospital and says, what do you do? What do you do? You go to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. And he went to Reb Chaim Kanievsky and said, Rebbe, this is what happened. And Reb Chaim asked him, tell me, why did you argue with the doctor? Was it L'Shem Shamayim? Or was it on a personal level? You know how it is. You start arguing, you want to make sure you be the guy and you show him. And the guy says to Reb Chaim, I definitely started L'Shem Shamayim. How it evolved, I'm not sure. But I definitely started L'Shem Shamayim. Reb Chaim says to him, if that's the case, don't worry. Fine. But what should I do? Go home. So he went home. In the morning, he gets a call from the doctor, from the hospital. Please come fast. So he runs to the hospital and he goes to the nurse and says, is my son okay? She says, yeah. Why do you ask? She says, why did you call me? Why did you tell me to come? I didn't call you. Who called me? I don't know. Go ask the head nurse. He goes to her and he says, is my son okay? She says, yeah, the night was okay. He's advancing. Everything seems okay. Why are you asking? So why did you call me and tell me to come? I didn't call you. Who called me? I don't know. Go see the doctor. He goes into the doctor's office and he says, doctor, did you call me and tell me to come? Yeah. Doctor, is my son okay? Yeah, everything's okay. So why did you tell me to come? The doctor says, you remember yesterday what we discussed? Yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're right, you're right. What do you mean I'm right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu called you last night. Doctor says, if you don't mind, close the door. Sit down. He closes the door and he sits down. The doctor tells him, you know, I'm 60 years old. I'm the head of the department here for many years. I'm the top doctor. And now the doctor lowers his voice and he says, you know, last night I wet my bed. It's the first time it ever happened to me in my life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed me He's in control. I'm not in control, not even in the small little things that we take for granted. Baruch Hashem, the doctor had chapped to make the connection. Reb Chaim Kanievsky's bracha. He realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one in control. He is not in control. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the show. He runs the world. So we said so many things about Kibbud Avicha ve'esimecha, but perhaps in a different way. In Bereshis Chav Vav Amud Aleph in the Zohar HaKodesh it says the Shechina is called Abba and called Ima. There's Midas HaRachamim, the Chesed, compassion. There's Midas Adin, strict judgment. You know what it means? Kabed es avicha ve'es imecha. What is the word es? We said es is superfluous. It comes to include something. Perhaps it comes to include kabed es avicha ve'es imecha. Honor, respect your mother and your father. Mother and father is the Shechina. That's what the Zohar HaKodesh says. Know that even when you see strict judgment in the world, suddenly you see rachamim. It's all coming from one place. There's no chalila, two entities upstairs. There's only one. Kabed es avicha ve'es imecha, to know that everything comes from midas harachamim. Medrash Rabbah says, "En davara yored milmala." There's nothing bad that comes from upstairs. It's all good. Kabed es avicha ve'es imecha. Know, honor, respect. Know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. Chalila, to think that there is two. Midas harachamim and midas adin come from one place, and ultimately it's all good. There's a pasuk in Tehillim. We all know it by heart. Kuf Yud Ches pasuk A. The pasuk says, "Min hameitza karasika." Call to Hashem from the distress, from the straits. It says min hametzar. Again, it seems to be superfluous. Why can't you write me hametzar? Why do you have to write min hametzar? It seems that the words min hametzar imply from within the problem, within the difficulty, within the challenge. What does it mean within the meitzar? Hametzar in Tehillim is spelled Hey, Mem, Tzadi, Resh. You know, in Hebrew, every letter has a revealed part and a concealed part. Aleph is spelled Aleph Lamed Fei. The Aleph is the revealed part. We see it. What's inside, filling up the Aleph, is the Lamed and the Pei. So what's inside the Meitzah? Because the pasuk says, David HaMelech says, I call you HaKadosh Baruch Hu from within my problem. Let's analyze the word HaMeitzah. Hey, Mem, Tzadi, Resh. What's inside a Hey? Another Hey. Hey, Hey. What's inside a Mem? Another Mem. How do you write a Tzadi in Hebrew? Tzadi, Daled, Yud. So inside the Tzadi is a Daled and a Yud. Meanwhile we have Hey, Mem, Daled, Yud. What's inside the Resh? A Shin. What's inside the Meitzah is the letters that form the words Yad Hashem. If I realize that my problems, difficulties, challenges, all the struggles that we have in the world is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yad Hashem, so then Min HaMeitzah Karasika, Anani B'merchav Ka, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to suddenly open up the straits. Everything will be okay. Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, to know that even the difficulties we have in life, the challenges, the difficulties are all coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Im Yirtzeh Hashem, with that understanding, when we acknowledge it, along with Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha, as we understand the pashtus, understanding, respecting, honoring our real parents, with that, Im Yirtzeh Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be Mismale Rachamim, and they're going to bring us Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'mheira b'yameinu amen.
Amen.